It's a Boxing Day installment of the show, freshly pressed on your love music, Love Life Station Smooth 98.1, 31 minutes past 7 a.m., 26th day in the month of December 2024. We are inching ever closer to the end of the year and 2025. Pretty soon, in about 6 days or thereabouts, we'll begin to sing Happy New Year to you and to yours. We're looking forward to a prosperous new year. And let's keep things in the present at the moment. My name is Ayokunmi, ready to walk you through the stories making the rounds in the papers this morning. It's going to be an interactive session, as it always is. That has not changed. We'll be taking a look at the stories. Analysis will follow, as well as your thoughts and reactions. We love to hear from you, get your perspective, and of course, your own unique spin on the stories that we'll be sharing this morning. Once again, if you're just tuning in, this is Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. I remain Ayokunmi. And joining me to analyze the stories, you're taking time out of their holiday and qualification as well, if I might say. Mr. C and Gbubemi are with me this morning. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Great to have you in on a Boxing Day Thursday.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Lagos. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy Boxing Day. Happy 1 week to the new year.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Gbubemi. Good morning, Lagos. I hope we're enjoying the holidays. Let's get into the show.
Indeed, let's get into the show. I mean, I've missed all the enjoyment. We need to keep our feet on the ground and know what exactly is going on all around us. And Mr. C, we're going to begin in the Punch newspaper this morning, still talking about Christmas and the celebrations and so on and so forth. A number of people were able to do this and that, host their friends, their family party, and so on. But a lot of other people found it a bit difficult. It's been quite a tough year. And traders across various markets in Nigeria have been lamenting poor patronage amid skyrocketing food prices. Now, that's a sharp contrast to the festive sales experienced in previous years. Now, in Lagos, in Abuja, in Osun, in Rivers, Edo, Kano, and a couple of other states, traders decry the high cost of food items and the ever-increasing food inflation on the jump in the petrol pump prices nationwide. We've been talking about food inflation for a number of months, and for this Christmas period, we know that a lot of buying and selling tends to happen. It feels like the chickens have somehow come home to roost. Yes, some people were able to still buy some chickens, buy some goats, some people bought cows, but those people felt like they were in the minority looking at the grand scheme of things. Mr. C. I hope you can hear me, or is your connection being a little bit iffy? Maybe it is. Okay, Mr. C is with us, and you are muted just in case you did not know that.
Okay. Thank you, Ayo. So I will start off by saying this. This story of reduced sales, low patronage is not new to Nigerians. I remember I have continued to read stories like that since the 80s. Nothing has changed. There's nothing new under the sun. But to be very honest, this year has been incredibly tough on the majority of Nigerians. We have at least 109 million Nigerians who are living in abject poverty. So, and when you look at the spike in the prices of foodstuffs and prices of things people need to consume on a regular or almost daily basis, it's truly incredible that inflation officially is 34%, because food inflation is way more than that. But we must remember that in computing the official inflation rate, there is a basket that is taken, and food is just part of it. They also look at housing, they look at transportation and other indices. Now, this story directly contradicts the assertions made by the president during his recent media chat, where he continued to reiterate, continued to reinforce, and continued to reemphasize the fact that his policies have started yielding fruit. Now, this is what I've consistently spoken about on this show, that there is still a massive dissonance, is still some massive disconnect between what elected and unelected public officials tell us with regards to the policies and what we are collectively experiencing as a people. Now, if the policies have started yielding fruit, why are buyers and sellers together complaining? Because in the past, it would usually be the sellers who are doing the complaining, but now it's more of buyers and sellers complaining, and this has been a recent trend. Now, let's not even talk about transport costs, whether you're traveling by road or whether you're traveling by air. They're quite prohibitive this time of the year. And I do know a number of people who would have loved to travel, but were unable to travel because of the prohibitive costs. Let's not even talk about the insecurity on the road, which is another added factor. But all in all, one thing is clear. The purchasing power of the average Nigerian has been significantly diminished. And in the new year, we are hoping that there will be less rhetoric, less propaganda, and actual work being done. Because to dig ourselves out of this, it's not rocket science. We need to increase productivity, and then we need to deal with the rogue members of the security forces that continue to extort money from transporters, moving foodstuffs and animals from the hinterland down to places like Lagos, because these unlawful and illegitimate costs or demands then drive up the cost of these things when they get to Lagos. So until we're ready to deal with these issues head on, until the heads of these security agencies are ready to take the bull by the horn and decisively discipline, prosecute, and if possible, dismiss.
Are you there, Mr. C? Okay. It looks like some network issues have come into play. I hope Mr. C comes back in. But until then,
That's where
okay, that's
charity
fine.
comes in. Sorry?
Yeah, you kind of froze for
Okay.
a second or two there.
Okay, so that's where charity comes in. Because for the majority of Nigerians, hundreds of millions, at least 100 million, they don't know how they're going to get at least a square meal each day until the end of the year. And that's where philanthropic organizations and individuals come in. But we've witnessed a worrying trend lately, and I think we're going to take that in one of the other stories. But again, this shows that there's a lot of work to be done, not only by the federal government, but also by the state governments, because there's only so much the federal government can do, assuming it's even doing everything it should do. The state governments also need to pull their weight. The big question remains, are the state governments pulling their weight? Are the local governments pulling their weight? Is the federal government pulling its weight? And I dare say the answer for now is no. They're not pulling their weight. There's a lot more that can be done. There's a lot more that should be done. But will it be done? That is the big, eternal, abiding question.
Big, eternal, abiding question. All right, let's put a pin in that one. You alluded to a worrying trend lately. We will be talking about some recent developments concerning the stampede issues that have been going on in the country, but we'll be talking about what happened in Abuja. We spoke about Ibadan yesterday. We'll be talking about Abuja later on in the show, but let's head into the Guardian right now, Gbubemi. Let's talk about illegal oil bunkering, and this is coming from the governor of Bayelsa State, Boyediri. Now, he has expressed concern over a new trend in oil bunkering, saying children and women were being used as human shields at illegal refining camps. Now, he stated this during a meeting with first-class traditional rulers in the state and local council chairman in the government house in Iyenagwa. If that is the case, it's a very, very worrying trend. Now, he said that the military on their reconnaissance missions discover these women and these children at the camps. Now, it just begs a lot of questions. But one thing is, it definitely would make the job of the military personnel a bit more difficult in flushing out these rogue elements where women and children are concerned. But then you begin to wonder, are these women and children there of their own volition, or are they being held there under duress? So many questions in this particular one.
Yes, exactly. So the first thing that comes to mind is he says that it's a new development. I cannot speak to the specifics, exact. For if we look around at illegal bunkering, illegal mining, illegal activities generally, around Nigeria, around other parts of Africa, we would notice that there's a sites. In fact, recently there was a story that I saw about illegal mining of lithium somewhere in Nigeria, and the story focused on the fact that there were a lot of child miners. Same for gold, same for all the other many of the other illegal mining of. So I'm like I said, so I'm not quite sure it's a recent development. Maybe it's just something that they've actually uncovered, or maybe it's something that they've just realized that the numbers have increased, but I do not quite think that it's a new development. However, so he's now urged, so he spoke at a meeting with the first class chiefs in Bayelsa State and also the local government chairman, and he has urged them to charge their citizens, people under them, to desist from placing women and children in these sites, also
Also,
citing the health issues and the potential security issues around all of this.
right.
I'm not sure what exactly it is that he expects these traditional rulers and the local government chairmen to do, to discourage these people from these activities. Illegal bunkering is a very lucrative practice, and in the face of hunger, in the face of, sustaining your livelihood, people will suspend, or some people may suspend all thinking to be able to focus on this. I'm not saying that illegal bunkering is a right and proper activity. Obviously, we know that is not, but a lot of people will suspend their morals or suspend their, logical thinking to be able to focus on this because they can get something out of it. Now, what I believe that they should be doing is, yes, the army is already, operating in those areas, carrying out, able to uncover, arrest a lot of these illegal bunkers as well, but without some form of empowerment, traditional rulers themselves are hampered. Now, another thing is, for this kind of activities to go on, typically, they're not hidden, quote unquote, to the people who reside in these areas. So one thing I believe that the governor should also be investigating is what level of collusion is operating within these areas,
Right.
especially with the prominent stakeholders. So it's one thing for you to try and urge people to encourage from this practice. It's another thing to probably discover that they may also be involved in this practice, in which case there's no skin in the game for them to be able to urge their people to desist from illegal mining. So I believe that if the governor is serious, not just even the governor, even, president, because the oil, is where we get a lot of most of our revenue from, there needs to be a more concerted focus on these illegal bunkering activities. Currently, we are not operating at capacity because of activities such as this. And it's not as if they're just going to scoop these things with cops and running away. There are large scale operations,
Exactly.
in these
Exactly.
areas, siphoning this fuel. We can see, those who operate there can see the infrastructure that these illegal bunkers have laid to be able to bypass the pipelines, and siphon the fuel. So it's not as if they're operating in hidden areas. I believe that a lot more seriousness needs to be placed on this illegal bunkering activities, and all those who are found culpable to whatever level they are, whether they're in government or private individuals or whatever, need to face the consequences. Otherwise, we're just playing here.
Otherwise, we are just playing here. We need to take things a bit more seriously. And we also need you to share your thoughts with us this morning. You can send your messages to us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981 0809 444 981. You can also join us on YouTube. We're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. That's on YouTube. You can drop your comments there as well. I'll take them as the show gets along in line or as well as the WhatsApp messages. All right, Mr. C, let's talk about what happened in Sokoto State yesterday. It was a sad one there, depending on where it is you're looking at it from the side of the residents there or the military, because we've been hearing two different things. Well, let's take a look at this from the Guardian specifically, where an unspecified number of villagers residing in two communities in the Silame local government area of Sokoto State have been feared dead after a fighter jet bombed the communities around 7 a.m. Yesterday, Christmas Day. Now, the Guardian learned that the fighter jet was targeted at Lakurawa terrorists who have been terrorizing the communities. And the affected communities have been identified as Ekidan, Sama, and Aruntua, and they are reportedly close to the Surame forest. Now, this forest has been identified as another hideout of the Lakurawa bandits. Now, that is what has happened in Sokoto State. Now, the military have actually come out to say that the people that were killed or those that were killed were the terrorists and misinformation should not be put out there and so on and so forth. But this is not the first time that we would hear of an accidental, bombing where civilians are. Now, is this another example of that? And is the military just trying to do damage control here? What exactly could be going on in this particular instance? You're muted. You're muted, Mr. C.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Iron. So I'm going to start this way. Like you rightly said, this is not the first time, it's not the second time, it's not the third time, it's not the fourth time, it's not the fifth time that we've had reports like this, that jets either belonging to the military or the Nigerian Air Force strafe a location, and we get reports afterwards indicating or strongly suggesting that innocent civilians were caught up in those missions and were illegally and unlawfully killed. Now, it's very sad to know that even as we speak at this very moment, there has been no official report of any of the previous investigations into previous missions that have gone awry in Nigeria. Now, this is the latest, and we must note the military's position that the mission was to attack terrorists belonging to the Lakurara group, and that they believe or they are of the firm opinion that the people who died were members of the Lakurara group and or their associates.
Right.
Now, it's interesting that the event happened yesterday and the military already has a categorical position. It begs the question as to the quality of the investigation that was conducted. Because I don't know investigations conducted into operations like this that are done so quickly and wrapped up so quickly. Because at the very least, you're supposed to receive evidence from civilians on the ground, in addition to members of the operation, both on the ground and in the air. Now, for the benefit of our listeners, the way it is done in other crimes is that you have troops on the ground. They go in first as a reconnaissance force or reconnaissance unit. They mark out the area to be bombed. They just don't bomb at will or indiscriminately. When they identify that the targets they're looking to eradicate are on the ground, then a signal is sent to the jets, and the jets come in and bomb the place. Then the ground unit goes in to mop up. So in the rare events that anyone they intend to remove is still alive, they can then either kill the person or they can then neutralize the person or apprehend the person. Now, we don't know whether that happened in this case. Now, the people are saying innocent people were killed. The local government chairman is saying that innocent people were killed. Why the Nigerian military is not willing to consider, at the very least, his position raises a very big question. But we must commend the state government. They've announced, at the very least, a cash donation and relief materials in the form of food for the survivors of this attack. Now, the bigger question is this: how do we ensure that such a situation does not occur again? Sadly, in the absence of any reports flowing from previous investigations conducted, we may continue to experience things like this. And it truly begs the question, is there no way to clearly differentiate between members of the Lakurara group and innocent Nigerians going about their daily business, living quietly in their homes? Because at some point it calls into question the level, the quality of training some of the fighter jet pilots have received. It calls into question the training the ground troops have received, because what coordinates are being given to the pilots of the jets? What coordinates are they using? Who's confirming that what they're bombing is actually aligns with the coordinates sent out? Because if the coordinates do not line up or do not agree, then you'll find that they bombed the wrong place. So back to your original question, is this damage control? It's hard to categorically say yes, but the speed with which the Army's position came out would strongly suggest so.
Well, as you mentioned, this is not the first, second, third, fourth, or even fifth time that this sort of thing is going to happen. And we've seen one too many instances of innocent people being killed in the crossfire. We need to see some sort of resolution in terms of investigations being done. We need to get answers. It's not just a case of these things happening. Oh, we'll investigate and nothing comes out of it. One too many instances of this. It really, really needs to stop. If that's the case in this particular situation. All right, let's jump back into the Guardian. Let's talk about cargo rail. Interesting one coming out here now. 15 months after the commencement of operations on the Yapapa Port to Ibadan cargo freight service, only 7,369 containers have been moved on the rail, underscoring the low utilization of the $1.5 billion project. Now, the number is about 18% of the projected traffic during its conception. Now, the Minister of Transportation, Saidu Akali, during the flag-off of the freight movement in September 2023, puts the daily traffic at 90 containers. Or this would have translated to an estimated 2,700 containers in a month and 40,500 from inception. But so far, only 18% of that has been utilized. I mean, this is a $1.5 billion project, and looking at it 15 months after, it hasn't really kicked into gear at all. Is this a case of these sort of projects, or is this a case of Nigeria happening? Because we've seen a lot of situations where a number of projects are done, big money is spent, maybe it works a little bit, and then at the end of the day, it just goes back into the doldrums. Walk us through this one.
Well, if we go further in the report, we'll see that the reason adduced for this, according to the Guardian, is high costs, inefficiencies, and complex processes as well, which has left the shippers exploring other options. So I think we'll first of all start with talking about high costs. In projects like this, considering how much has been expended, one of the usual common practices that a lot of people would think of is trying to recoup the costs upfront, or try to hit a profit as quickly as possible. However, in instances like this, one of the first things you should, however, focus on is encouraging adoption. Because the shippers already had the land transportation to move their goods. Now we're trying to get them to move by rail. So for them, it's an economic decision, land or rail. At the point of inception, the first thing that should have been considered is, how do we make this rail transportation more attractive to these people? Cost definitely is a very, very important issue. As we all know, moving anything through the ports is an expensive venture. People joke about it all the time, how when you bring in something, you probably have to pay maybe 30% or whatever, in legal and illegal fees to be able to ensure that you move your goods out as quickly as possible. So for me, ensuring that cost was attractive to the shippers was one of the primary considerations. I don't know to what extent that happened, but it appears that it has not, because like I said, according to the story, cited as one of the major issues, inefficiencies as well, and complex processes. Now, the important thing is that shippers want to be able to get their goods from the ports and move it as quickly as possible, so that they can then go on to sell whatever it is that they've got in. Now, if the processes are not as seamless as possible, if there are too many bottlenecks in that process, they're going to look for alternatives. The assumption is that the rail transportation should have made it a bit more efficient for them, but it appears as though it has not.
Right.
Now, if we look at it now, so in the last 18 months or so, they've only shipped the amount of goods that they should have shipped in maybe 3 months, or thereabouts, or so, or maybe 2.5, 3 months, thereabouts, which is a disappointment. I believe that after the first 3 months, the Nigerian Ports Authority and all the relevant stakeholders should have sat down to review this issue and have said, okay, in this period, we expected X number of goods to have moved, but we've only had this number. What can we do to review the situation? It does not appear as though that has happened. Even if they didn't do it in 3 months, they should have done it in 6 months and not waited for 15 months. This is a huge, huge expense that has been spent on this on this project, and
right.
It's not recouping what has been put into it. So for now, what I believe that they should do, clearly, if they haven't already done it, haven't already started doing it, is to start discussions with relevant stakeholders. They also need to go back and look at their pricing model. They also need to go back and review their processes to find areas of inefficiencies and how they can improve on this to be able to attract more people. Everybody wants the best for themselves. Everybody wants the cheapest, most efficient option. And if they don't sit down to review how that can happen, then we're just going to continue declaring losses. And clearly, nobody's going to take responsibility because it's nobody's personal money, it's government money. We also need to get to a position where we can ensure that people take responsibility for things like this.
Right. You would have wondered that all these kinks would have been ironed out at least before the start of the project. We know that in Nigeria, when it comes to complex processes, we excel amazingly well at them. And now, after spending so much money, the project not being utilized, 18% in that period of time, really not good enough. And those issues need to be sorted out, or else. Okay, Mr. C, let's talk about what's been going on in Abuja really quickly, because time has absolutely flown by here. Coming out of the Daily Post. Now, the Federal Capital Territory FCT Police Command has arrested the parish priest and officials of the Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Abuja over their roles in the fatal stampede that occurred in the Nigerian capital. Now, at least 10 people died during distribution of groceries to less advantaged people at the Abuja Church's car park on Saturday. Now, the arrest was first announced by a Catholic priest on Wednesday before the police confirmed the arrest to Premium Times correspondents. We spoke about Ibadan yesterday, where about four people have been detained in relation to the events there, and there was a conversation over the whether or not the police were doing too much, whether they arrested the right people or the wrong people. Can you speak to the legality of the situation here, the arrest of the Catholic priest in the Abuja incident? Is the police going after the right people? And call me crazy for asking this, but will we see a resolution to this matter?
Okay, thank you, Ayo. So very quickly, yes, I think the police was right in taking in the priest, but I'm not sure they should have arrested him. They should have invited him for questioning. And the reason is simple. The event was held in the car park of the church. So to all intents and purposes, he would have all the details about such an event, even if the Catholic Church was not the organizer. It would have been in touch with the organizers who would probably have gotten permission from the church to organize the event. But beyond all of this, I'm seeing a very disturbing trend, and we're about to set a very dangerous precedent. Now, what is this precedent? That once you have an event, you are criminally liable as an organizer for the behavior of people you probably have never met and you definitely do not have any control over. So let me give you a hypothetical situation. An organizer called X plans to organize an event. He writes to the Nigeria police force. He gets 50 policemen armed for the event. He does everything he needs to do. He registers with the Lagos State Safety Commission. He does everything, gets all his requisite permits and approvals. Okay. Now, on the day, a group of people decide to be unruly, decide to be impatient, decide to be irresponsible, and they start a stampede. Now, why do I say this? Because Nigerians generally tend to follow the leader. So someone just starts running, everybody's running, nobody understands why they're running, they don't know where they're running to, they don't know how long they're going to run for. So maybe X plans to share stuff, and then they decide that we're so far back in the line, we'll rather not wait. We want to get to the front quickly, get it and leave. And then the people at the front naturally will be taken aback by such unfruitful behavior, and a stampede will start. Remember, X has gotten all his approvals.
Right.
In a case like this, in the course of a stampede, if people die, can X truly be held accountable for the irresponsible actions of the unidentified individuals who caused the stampede? Now, I'm not saying that the police should not carry out investigations. Please, by all means, carry out your investigations. And if it can be established as a prima facie case against any individual or set of individuals, you can arraign them in court, let them have their day, and present evidence in support of them opposing the charges. Two, all these stampedes point to something, right? Despite the position of the federal government and the president that all is well, fruits have started to blossom, the contrary is still the case. Why would anyone who is enjoying life, who has a pretty decent life, struggle to go out and queue for 5,000 naira or a plate of rice? In Ikoyi, for those who know, on a prominent road a day or two ago, there were people lining up as early as 3 a.m. for an 8 a.m. handout. Why would decent Nigerians be lining up for handouts if all was well? That is the big question the government at all levels should answer.
As I always say, we have so many questions, but definitely not enough answers. Kimapuza says, it has always been the norm that anytime investigations are set up to investigate any Nigerian Air Force missed bombs, as he puts them, done in the past, nothing always comes out of it. That's really bad. May God help Nigeria. All right, thank you for that. And thank you, Mr. C. and Gbubemi, for joining us this morning. You need to get yourselves ready for a Boxing Day of festivities, and looking forward to all the enjoyments, I'm pretty sure.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy your day.
Thank you for having me. Lagos, enjoy the rest of the holidays.
Alrighty, Lagos, enjoy the rest of the holidays and keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1. We'll get into the Grapevine at 8:15, talking about all the entertainment stories and, of course, a whole